And I would like to share with you a little bit more about what we're building at Osmoses from the point of view of transforming molecular separations. And first of all, I want to bring everybody in the room, and there's a very diverse, diverse background here. Why this matters? Okay, the slides are not great, but imagine. Why this matters, because the cost of unmixing, separating, and purifying molecules in the industry is truly massive. We're talking about 15% of the world's energy that is used to separate and purify molecules. And the reason for that is that because we use a lot of thermal processes to run these separations that are critical to enable energy, petrochemical, and chemical industry infrastructure. We talk about decarbonization all the time, and let me tell you that there's no way we're going to hit our net zero goals if we don't bring innovation in how we're separating and purifying molecules in the industry, which is really why at Osmoses, our mission is to rebuild industrial infrastructure so that it's not a bottleneck to a cleaner future anymore. Traditional separations, the reason why they're very energy intense, as I mentioned before, is because they rely on thermal processes. You literally need to boil off components to get what you want. At the same time, though, they're very energy intense, they're very effective but very energy intense. So traditional membranes represented an alternative to these processes. They operate as molecular filters, so they filter out molecules from one another, getting rid of the thermal component. But the problem with traditional membranes is that they have poor separations. Poor separations lead to high operating cost. High operating cost leads to low adoption. So really, they never made it to more than 5 to 10% of the market. And the platform that we built at Osmoses is a platform of new membrane technologies that actually checks all the boxes to deliver exceptional separations, which really is the ability of separating gas very effectively, which leads to lower operating cost, and the ability to process a lot of molecules together, which leads to lower capital cost, which really makes a great alternative to the traditional separations out there. And the technology that we created is a family of polymer materials that, when manufactured into membrane technologies, basically the module that you see there on the left, leave behind porosities that have very similar size to that of gas molecules. And we're starting from gas molecules because they're the smallest molecules that you can find on Earth. And when you can filter out based on size, the smallest molecules, you really have something that is a technological breakthrough. So we have a lot of firms that are excited about what we're building, and also we have a lot of partnership with government agencies, and we're making progress there. Something that I wanted to highlight here is that that module that you see is the unit, the membrane module. Is something that at scale looks something like this long and diameter like this. And in order to process more gas, to build bigger or smaller plants, you put more or less of these modules. So it's a truly modular technology. And we can do a lot of, we can play with a lot of gases, we can operate in many fields, but our go-to-market strategy led us to believe that hydrogen is the first market that we want to play a role. We believe in hydrogen as a key molecule in the energy transition, and separations can really play a role in lowering the energy consumptions and also the carbon emissions associated with the production and distribution of that molecule. And at the same time, we can play a role in biomethane, which is the production of methane basically from biogas, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it in a second. Oxygen production from air, carbon capture, refrigerant reuse, and also helium production from dilute resources. I've highlighted a couple of applications here because I think those are the strongest examples when it comes to decentralization. Because oxygen today, as it's produced, you think about very large, petrochemical and chemical plants where you have these massive distillation columns that are cryogenic processes. You literally need to take air, condensate it, cool it down, compress it, cool it down until it becomes a liquid, and then you distill it like if it was basically a beverage. And an alternative is just to filter out oxygen from nitrogen, taking air, right? So that really creates a massive opportunity to reduce the energy intensity of the process. And what is really interesting is that membranes scale down very well. So you can create a more decentralized infrastructure to produce that oxygen-rich air that doesn't rely on that big plant to operate. Some companies, because of our energy intensity this process, had to build their operations around plants where they actually produce oxygen to keep the cost down. So this is a massive opportunity. Producing biomethane from waste with digesters from landfills is a massive opportunity because it basically replaces natural gas with something that is renewable. So there's an opportunity there to deploy small plants all around the world that can produce biomethane with membrane technologies that separate CO2, H2S, and other gases from methane. And it's, it's really, 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 really effective. And hydrogen is a very similar story. There's multiple verticals that we can play a role, and it's a very exciting space as well. These already are big markets and are projected to grow beyond $35 billion in sales of equipment by 2030. We talked about a lot of these topics and already touched upon some of them, so I'm going to skip through these slides. But this was our team in 2021 when we incorporated. Founders from Stanford and MIT. The technology has been incubated there for a while. And now we are around 20 people that bring together more than 200 years of experience and so scaling up commercial operations. And we are going to bring our module in the field in the upcoming years. Piloting with customers is really something that is extremely important and the next big step for us. And we're ready to so we can be ready to commercialize solutions starting in 2027. This is our prototype at the prototype scale, so the smaller version of the membrane module that I was talking about before. We're always looking for partners and use case that we can start it, so maybe we can pilot with. And I hope this was enough to understand why gas operations matter and why Osmoses can play a role in this industry in a decentralized way. And I'm looking forward for the panel and for the upcoming questions.